Are you sick and tired of feeling like you always are under the gun to get out that next podcast episode, blog post, or video? I know exactly how you feel, and I'm here to tell you I've got the answer, and your troubles are about to be over.
Building your business one night at a time.
Hey, my name is Mark Mason from the popular Late Night Internet Marketing Podcast, and I'm here to talk to you about content batching and how that can be the solution to all of your content creation problems. Now, when most people think about content batching, they think about the idea of spending an entire day sitting in front of the microphone and creating content. And while that certainly can be part of your batching, I think the real thing that you need to think about whenever you're talking about content batching is the strategy behind it. But before we get into that, what do we even mean when we talk about content strategy, and why might we want to do that? As I mentioned in the open to the video, one of the big problems that content creators struggle with is the pressure of having that deadline looming. You said you were going to publish every Thursday, and now it's Wednesday night and you're staring at a blank screen and you're not sure exactly what to write or to say. Or something happened this week that you weren't expecting, and now instead of having time to create your content, you find yourself up against the deadline because you got sick or you had to travel unexpectedly or whatever. It happens to all of us. And one defense against all of this is working well ahead of your schedule using the magic of content batching. Now, content batching has two other amazing benefits as well. It's just simply more efficient to batch your content, especially if you're doing something that requires setup like audio or video. Got to get the camera set up, you got to get the lights turned on, you've got to get everything ready to go. In the case of video, not in my case, but in the case of some video, you might need to dress up nicely. Well, why do that over and over again when you can do all of that once and then create 4 or 5 or 10 pieces of content all in one sitting? That's one great advantage to content batching, is it's just simply more efficient. Now, another advantage to content batching is it can really help, that's Gizmo, it can really help you when it comes to managing any support services that are downstream of your content creation. Maybe you have a transcriptionist or people creating graphics or promoting your content in some way. If your content is batched, that can really help those people. And the other advantage that it gives you is it allows you to create a content calendar. It works really well with that strategy. And that's what I meant when I said the real magic of content batching is the opportunity to get strategic about your content. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, simply put, I mean thinking carefully about what you want the whole sum of your content to be once several months go by. Let's take an example. Let's say that you're a blogger or podcaster in the niche of personal finance, debt reduction, and that sort of thing. Well, you might have several areas that you normally talk about. A lot of times, we refer to those as content pillars. So for example, if you're a personal finance blogger, you might of course talk about debt reduction. Sure you do. But you might also talk about how to live more frugally, basically to spend less money. That would be 2 content pillars. A third obvious content pillar would be how to create more money so you can retire your debt faster or get to whatever your financial goals are more quickly. And then a fourth content pillar might be how to invest wisely, what you should do with your money more than you have more money on hand that you need to spend. All of these things are content pillars. So if you have a content calendar, you might imagine that at the end of 3 months or 6 months, you might want to have 10 pieces of content under each pillar. That's 40 pieces of content. Well, you can easily come up with the 10 topics under each pillar that you want to address, and then you can organize them into batches. This month, I'm going to do 2 pieces of content from each pillar, and I'm going to be ready to go. That's the real super secret but super powerful advantage to content batching is it feeds into a content strategy. This is wonderful for your audience because it allows you to address the things that they really need to hear about instead of throwing content together at the last minute without any idea of actually what your overall strategy is. So now that you've got these 8 or 10 ideas of content, hello Gizmo. Now that you've got these 8 or 10 ideas for content, then you can sit down in a block of time and record all that content. The pre-work that you do should be the normal pre-work. If you normally outline your podcast episodes, you want to have all those outlines and all that information ready to go. Now, when you sit down, you want to make sure that your calendar is blocked and you want to have the time and resources, and I think most importantly, the energy that you're going to need to create content in a batch. If you're like me, once I start creating content like a podcast episode or some audio, I get on a roll and sometimes I can go for hours. But I think it's also important to plan in breaks. Maybe you're going to need a cup of coffee or to take a walk around the block during your batching, but you're wanting to stay focused on that task. You've got everything set up, you're in the vibe, you're in the mood, and you're getting it done, and that's amazing. And that's what you can do when it comes to batching content. Now, once you've started to batch content, what you're going to realize is that makes it really easy to start working ahead. In fact, you're working ahead by definition. If you do, let's say you do 4 pieces of content at a time and you publish weekly, by definition, you're working 4 weeks ahead. And if you can batch every 2 weeks and work 4 weeks ahead, you can very quickly get well ahead of your normal content schedule. Just make sure you're using some kind of workflow tool like ClickUp or Asana or Trello to help you keep track of what needs to be done with each piece of content, because you're going to be working in parallel on these content. You're going to be preparing to record, recording or creating or writing, and then you're going to be editing and publishing and promoting, and you'll be doing this on separate schedules and in parallel workflows. So it's really good to have a tool like that to sort of keep track of what the current status is on each and every piece of content. Now, one of the big advantages to this is if you accidentally miss a week or you have a week where you can't batch, you're not really behind because you were already working 4 weeks ahead. You can just double down the next week or perhaps do an extra video the next week or whatever it is that you need to do to get back on that work ahead schedule. Once you've got that buffer built, then you never need to be late with a piece of content again. Now, what are the disadvantages to batching? Because I think there are some, and there are 2 primarily. One is sometimes it's a pretty big ask, or it requires some training or discipline to be able to have the stamina to create 4 pieces of content at once. And that may not be for you, and that's okay. Or perhaps batching for you means you always spend the entire day on Tuesday, but it's 4 spread out 1-hour chunks. Whatever it means for you, you need to be sure that you actually can maintain the right energy level when you're grouping content together. You don't want to be exhausted by the time you get to the last piece of content. That's not going to be good for your audience, so you need to watch out for that. I think the second major disadvantage to batching is that it inhibits your ability to react to what's going on in the marketplace. If your content engine is news-based and you need to be reacting to what's going on in your marketplace, batching won't be as great for you because you may be working 4 weeks ahead, and by the time that content gets out there, that may be old news in 4 weeks, or conversely, you may be publishing about something that happened 4 weeks ago, and you really need to be talking about something that just happened yesterday, but that's not how your workflow works. You can work around those things, but in general, I would say batching works best for evergreen content. So just be aware of the fact that that when you speak into the microphone or you look into that camera, if you're batching, what you're saying to your audience may not hit the press for another 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how large your batches are. So I hope this helps you with your content creation journey. Again, my name is Mark Mason from Late Night Internet Marketing. If this video was helpful to you, you can help me in turn by smashing that like button. Every time you hit that like button, that helps YouTube understand that this video is actually worth watching, and they'll show it to other people and it will help them too. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, smash that subscribe button and ring the bell, and you'll be notified when I come out with my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Go create some content.
Building your business one night.